I'm Shannon Thrasher, and this is 30-Second Tactics. So, let's talk about traffic stops. In very broad terms, traffic stops need to be two things, and this is absolute. They need to be legal. We owe that to the public that entrust us with the ability to make those Fourth Amendment stops, not violate, but, impose on their constitutional rights under certain circumstances. So we need to make sure those circumstances are met. And second thing they need to be is safe. We owe that to ourselves, to the community, to our families. So let's talk about them real quick. This is obviously a quick video. It's not going to be everything you ever need to know about traffic stops, and it's not going to be any hands-on practical application, but somewhere to start for some of you new guys and maybe a refresher for some of you old guys. So in 2020, and I use 2020 because it's pre-COVID craziness, or right at the beginning, and a lot of the injuries and deaths are kind of skewed by the COVID results. So let's go with that. There were 110 U.S. law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty in 2020. So 47 of those deaths, or almost half, occurred either during traffic stops or as a result of vehicle accidents. So what's that tell us? Statistically speaking, driving your patrol vehicle and making traffic stops is the most dangerous thing you can do in law enforcement. So traffic stops, again, very generically, and your department might use different terms, but they're either unknown risk or high risk. We're going to talk real quick about unknown risk. Your average stop. We're not stopping a bank robber we know just robbed a bank. We're stopping a guy because he's got one headlight. And maybe he just robbed a bank. We don't know that, right? So you got to be safe on every stop. So before we make the stop, before we turn on our blues or red and blues or whatever you have, what do we need to consider? Okay, first thing, like I said about legal, we got to have either reasonable suspicion or probable cause to conduct that stop. So reasonable suspicion. Police officer possesses reasonable suspicion if he has knowledge to lead a reasonable, cautious person to believe that criminal activity occurred and that an individual played some part in it. This is not a class on reasonable suspicion, so we won't dig too deep into that, but that's a legal brief on it right there. So probable cause is when a reasonable amount of suspicion supported by the circumstances sufficiently strong to justify a prudent and cautious person to believe that certain facts are probably true. In the case of traffic stops, this usually means the officer has observed a traffic violation committed by the driver in question or observed an equipment violation in the vehicle or on the vehicle. So, Wren versus U.S., remember everything we do is based on law and backed up by court rulings, and it declared that any traffic offense committed by the driver is a legitimate basis for a stop. And that goes into pretextual stops and other things. We're not going to dig too deep because we're not going down any rabbit holes. Just like I said, this is a very brief refresher on traffic stops. But what that says, and what the Supreme Court's backed up, is if you see a traffic violation, you can pull them over. End of story. And the Supreme Court stated that temporary detention of a motorist upon probable cause, remember, probable cause to believe that has violated traffic laws does not violate the Fourth Amendment, right? We're not out there violating people's rights against unreasonable search and seizure, even if a reasonable officer would not have stopped the motorist absent some additional law enforcement objective. In other words, it doesn't matter if the traffic stop's pretextual so long as there was independent justification for the stop. So what does that mean in English? If you see that guy and you know that guy's shady and you know sometimes that guy drives drunk or has drugs or whatever or might have a warrant and he's speeding or he turned without his turn signal or did some other violation, you can pull him over for that violation even though you want to talk to him about some other reason, as long as you have that legal justification. So, things to remember. You are in charge of this traffic stop. Don't stop the vehicle just because you saw the violation. Boom, pull them over right there, okay? Consider these things. Is this a safe place to stop? Is there a better place just down the road? Is this a high crime area where you might draw a hostile crowd? Is it a high traffic area where you or the suspect might get run over by a vehicle? Okay, so now we're going to make the stop. First thing you need to do is notify dispatch. I get so tired of seeing these guys, especially interdiction guys, that'll stop 5 or 6 cars in a row without letting anybody know. And then they scream for help and we don't know where they're at. So don't be that guy. At an absolute minimum, make sure dispatch knows the license plate of the vehicle. Not a bad idea to add a description in case it's a mismatched plate. And the location of the stop. And if you put that out and you turn on your lights and it takes them another mile to stop, make sure you're letting dispatch know of your final destination, even if it's something minor like he turns off onto a side street that your backup might not see when they come down Main Street. If he turned off on First Street and you parked a half a block down, he might miss you, especially during the day when your lights don't stick out so much. So while the vehicle's pulling over, watch that vehicle, observe the driver and the passengers. Take note of any furtive movements inside the vehicle that might indicate occupants are attempting to hide evidence or retrieve a weapon. Position your vehicle about 1 to 1.5 car lengths behind the suspect vehicle and turn your wheels out to the left. And what that will hopefully do, if you get rear-ended, which is pretty common, if your car gets hit in traffic, especially if you do highway stuff, hopefully that will make your vehicle kind of turn off to the side and give you that much more chance of not getting ran over by your own vehicle. Okay, so decide if it's a passenger or driver side approach is best for this situation. Again, not getting into a lot of detail. Passenger side approaches are awesome and should be used most of the time, but that's not what this class is about, so we won't dig too deep on that. So get out of your vehicle quickly, but cautiously. Remember, you keep an eye on the driver. You also be glancing at your mirror, keep an eye on traffic. If you jump out of your car so quick because you're worried about that driver and you get ran over by that semi coming, you're not helping anybody. Okay, make sure you introduce yourself, your official capacity, ask for a driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance. Now, your department may have, a particular way they want you to do this, but, at the very least, be nice, start things out, hello, sir, I'm so-and-so with so-and-so. Can I see your driver's license, vehicle, registration, and proof of insurance, please? There's no reason for you to start the stop off bad because you're already probably putting this guy in a bad mood, especially if it's a good citizen and he doesn't even know what he's doing wrong. I can't tell you how many times I've had rookies pull people over for no brake lights, and then they get up there with an attitude like, that guy didn't know he had brake lights. He don't drive behind his car. But anyway, enough on that. Moving on. Okay. Have the occupant stay in the vehicle unless you have a legal reason to separate them from the vehicle. There's a lot of reasons for this. Basically, it's a lot easier to contain someone in the vehicle. Now, there is case law that says we can pull them out, passengers and drivers. We can ID them. We can do all that. But unless you have a particular reason, don't just get in the habit of always pulling people out of the car. Because once you pull them out of the car, it's a lot easier for them to fight you, to pull out a gun and shoot you, to run away, to start screaming, police brutality, whatever. Just leave them in the car where they're nice and contained, unless you got a good reason to pull them out. Definitely ID everybody in the vehicle. I say everybody if you got grandma in the back seat or a 2-year-old baby, but use common sense. But I can't tell you over my years and years how many times the passenger's gone to jail for having a warrant. He's shady. He knows he doesn't have a license. He's made the smart decision not to drive, hoping he won't get ran. Run him. He's probably got warrants. And the Supreme Court has ruled on a couple different times that basically there's 15, 20 minutes is a reasonable detention. Now, you can't just pull them over and grill them for 20 minutes. You have to be conducting the business of your stop. That's things like running their license, checking them for warrants, filling out a ticket. Stuff like that is all legit. Again, this is not real deep on open air sniffs by drug dogs and stuff. But if you're delaying the stop while you're waiting for the drug dog to get there, that case is probably going to get thrown out of court. And again, that's another topic for another video. So remember, you're in charge. Don't allow the subjects to rush you through your investigation. Okay? Oh, I'm in a hurry. Oh, I have to use the bathroom. Oh, I'm headed to the hospital. Whatever. Use common sense. Sometimes, yeah, they need to be rushed off. But consider, are they rushing you because they're late for a meeting or because there's a trunk in the body or a body in the trunk and they don't want you, digging a little deeper? And again, 15, 20 minutes is reasonable if you're using that to conduct the legal business of the traffic stop, not just a fishing expedition. Okay, during the stop, try your best, and I know we all have computers now and it makes it harder, but try not to conduct a lot of business behind the steering wheel, because once you've gone back to the car and now that guy that you think's just getting a ticket, but he knows that he just robbed a bank or killed his parents or something, this is the time he's thinking about, I'm going to jump out and start shooting. Well, if he jumps out and starts shooting, he's likely to start shooting right through the windshield of the driver's seat. So if you're sitting there, you're already, fighting, behind the 8 ball, whatever you want to call it. So if you can, go around the passenger side. If you're writing paper tickets, stand behind your car. Do what you can and not spend too much time behind the steering wheel when you're conducting this stop. Okay, at the conclusion of the stop, stay polite, stay professional. The least professional and more impolite they are, in this day of everybody's filming you and you probably have a body camera and a dash camera, it's just going to make you look better and more professional when they're yelling and screaming and or cussing and you're remaining professional. Just because they're using terrible language doesn't mean you get to or you have to. And again, if you write them a ticket, try not to say, all right, have a good day, because, you've messed up their day in their mind. Now, of course, they did it, they earned it, but in their mind, it's the cop that ruined their day, and for you to say have a good day sounds sarcastic. So, it says here, drive safe, be careful. I like to use just a very simple, the last thing I say to them is, don't forget your seatbelt. It's a good way to end the conversation, and it's friendly, it's, good advice to them, and it's really hard to turn don't forget your seatbelt into he was being sarcastic. No, he was just giving you some friendly advice to keep you safer and in compliance with the traffic laws. All right, this is a big one for me, guys. Do not hop back in your car and say 10-8 or whatever your code is for back in service until that vehicle suspect is driven off and you have driven off. Give it that extra 5-10 seconds, whatever it takes, and then let dispatch know that you're back on routine patrol. Because if you hop back in the car and say, I'm back in service, or whatever your code for that is, and 1 second later, the driver hops back out and you got to talk to him for 10 minutes, or the driver hops back out, shoots you 5 times and you're laying there bleeding to death, and it takes, the next citizen driving down the street 10 minutes later to notice something's wrong before dispatch even has an idea. So don't clear up the call until the call is cleared up. So this is the part where you guys ask me questions, but how are you going to do that? Well, that's what the comment section's for. Now, you can put whatever you want, but if you put a bunch of, well, you forgot this and you forgot that. Yeah, I know. It's a 10-minute YouTube video on what should be, a couple-hour class with some hands-on stuff. But again, like I said, hope it's a good refresher for you old-timers been doing it forever, and I hope it's some good things to think about for the new guys. So guys, that's what I have for you this time. As always, work, train, repeat. Stay safe.